So this will be a video about the struggles to get a good internet connection up to the house when you live a little off the beaten path. It started a couple of years back when we got a question from the local commune city council if we would be interested in a better internet connection. It was just a summer house back then. This is the place where my mother was born and grew up for until she was 7. They moved, but it's been in the family for a long time, and I choose to move here now when things changed. So here I am, and I'm very keen on that good internet connection. So it started a couple of years back. I bugged the guy that was in charge of that project then that I was gonna move here and become a permanent resident, and yeah, sure, it was no problem. This place was included in the project, so that sounded good. That was 2 years ago. Then all of a sudden he quit, and a new guy took over last summer that I was chasing, and no. Then it sounded like it wasn't enough money. This place couldn't be included, and he was there for yeah, as I said, 1 year, and then he quit, and now it was some new guy this summer, and I was kind of aware that I would have to dig a little myself maybe to get this done, but was hoping we could meet halfway or something. But now it was a no, could not be included. But my dad knows the entrepreneur, and he said, sure, you're gonna be included. Here, come get some hose, start digging. So that's what we did, and eventually they came back from the commune, and all of a sudden it was gonna cost me a lot more money to get connected, and I was gonna do all the work myself. Then I got a little upset and tried to get hold of the boss for this project that I still, after 2 years of trying to be in contact with them, have not been able to talk to or meet. So that was a little annoying, but it came back an offer that I was gonna pay a little less than first agreed upon, and do all the job myself. It's still a really crappy deal. It would have been it's very little money for a lot of work. This whole project took us a little over 2 weeks of work time. I think we were at around 90 hours, and that's 2 of us. My dad have helped out a lot. Sadly, he's not as keen on digging. He doesn't like this machine. It's a bit jerky compared to the big excavator, and that rotor tilt makes it a little trickier with the maneuvering. Well, you've seen this. Now I'm gonna change the focus to what the project involved, not the backstory behind it. We have a lot of rocks. I'm not sure how the Swedish saying stenrik translate, rich in stone. And here the road is actually not on property I own, but I had talked to the landowners that own the forest, the land in around the road, and I have told them now after also that they can easily say that they are rich in stone rich. And we got all of that hose. So you put the hose down, you make sure you have it nice. My dad by hand filled in the first section to ensure it was no stones and stuff that could damage the hose, and then you put down a warning belt. Here we wanted to see that you could have access. I have or that it's not obstructed, so my dad, it's down in the connection box. Oh, it's so much fun fueling up this little excavator. One can 20 liters, and you can run it almost all day. It's not like the forest machines. Well, we did a section with the hose that we were able to get hold of. yeah, here I clean up a little after the telephone company, because when the old telephone line was dismantled, they just removed the poles and left the cable lying there. First real obstacle, ditch that we had to go. I think some entrepreneurs would go up into the roadway over the pipe under the road, because it's less resistance, goes faster. But then you have the issue if you have to do some maintenance and replace a pipe at some point, so we choose to go outside of it and quite deep. Brought in some sand to fill in and secure the hose down in the trench we're digging. Had a couple of stones that got wedged in the bucket and refused to come on down, but then the grapple can be nice to find, even if it's a little tricky and trying to force the stone out. But once it starts moving a little, when you then grab hold of it and shake it a little, so far I've been able to get them all out like this. The total distance is roughly 1.5 kilometers, just under a mile. And with that distance, yeah, my dad, who knows the entrepreneur, they had put down, when they did the digging to the houses down by the bigger road, put down a piece of pipe that was going up towards my house last summer. So luckily that section was done already, and where we could connect it's still long enough that we need a junction box halfway up. And then they want one up near the house also, for some reason, if some of the other houses up here will want to get connected sometime in the future. I highly doubt that, but maybe. Yeah, you need to cut the hose and have a adapter. Also, when I had the excavator there, removed some of the stones sticking out of the road, and it makes it really hard to maintain the road when you have things like this that stick up a little. Any blade you want to grade the road with will jump on a. It doesn't have to be a very big rock, and it's still on there hard. Yeah, we were fancy and cut a little piece of rubber mat and placed as a bottom in that junction box we put in. Then that was put in place. It's used when they put in the fiber cable later on. If they can't get it to go all the way, they will take it to the halfway point and then keep feeding it from that, as I understand it. Some sand around the box to secure it. Luckily we have a good sand pit with I have sand for the rest of my life for everything I could imagine, and I really like the grapple. I didn't really see the use of the grapple when we first purchased this excavator, but I would never get that rotor tilt attachment without a grapple, even if I hear it costs in the region of $2,500, that add-on, like 20, maybe a little less, two grand in US money. That's more universal. 20,000 Swedish monopoly money. That's losing greatly in value. Yeah, I'm feeding out more hose. In the beginning we went quite deep with the digging, maybe a little too deep, but we were also kind of down in the ditch, so if that is cleaned out in the future, it's good to have a little room there. Here the rest of the road. We're just digging very shallow on the outside of the ditch, and here I'm gonna address narrowing the road and bringing up some material onto the road. Yeah, bringing out hose and that signal cable on top. Yeah, my dad did a massive job on this project. It's quite repetitive, this video, until the last little bit, so I won't blame you if skipping ahead. Some more fuel, a little bit of hydraulic oil, because there are a few small leaks, and it's very nice to have the quick attachment to change buckets. Here we have the next pipe in the road, a ditch going across, or pipe feeding water across, so there is kind of a bigger ridge here to remove to be able to feed it. Luckily this place is dry, it's not feeding any water other when we have heavy rains or in the spring, so this was an easy place to pass. And here I ended up going way too deep, but it was so easy digging and hardly any rocks to go down, and you want not a sharp bend, so you want a nice smooth transition back up to a lower depth. The last pipe in the road we had to pass is feeding quite a bit of water, so we tried plugging the pipe with some sandbags, but I think the ground here seeps through quite a lot of water, so it didn't really help that much. Some grease, there are quite a few points on that rotor tilt, and then the excavator, the dozer blade, has a couple of grease points also. More hose. Here we've brought out a lot of hose, be ready to quickly put it down, because once you start digging and want to go deeper in the ditch like that, the soft tends to get very soft, and it's kind of a clay in the bottom here, so we knew we were gonna have to hurry to get it down in place before things started caving in. Just went straight across the ditch here to do the digging, because I knew that it would be a lot faster than starting to align the machine along the ditch. And it's kind of a sloppy mess coming up from here, so realized I was a little too close, or needed a little more distance to get a good smooth transition up from the depth where we went deep under the ditch, or where the pipe comes out, so had to move once again and then start digging as quickly as I could, then jump out, and I could hear it starting to cave in a little, so I realized we have to hurry here, so we made a dash for it to quickly get the pipe all the way down. And then we had prepared, so we had some sand to start securing it down there as quickly as possible. And that was the last ditch we had to cross while following the road up. At least there is one more, but that was a little easy here. Here you can see me struggling to line up the machine with the ditch again and keep going. It can be a little tricky to get good traction, and it tends to want to wobble quite a bit, so it's good to take it slow and not rush here. At least the little bigger excavators are not as easy to tip over as the smaller ones. I myself have yet to tip with a machine, but I've seen colleagues back when I worked a little operating excavators and tractors. I actually worked with this kind of job for a little bit a while back. Yeah, you can see it clears up a little up there, the fields. Then we enter property that I own. We had to extend that signal cable because we ran out on the roll we had. And there are stones pretty much everywhere around here, and here I tried to get up onto the field, and here we make a little soft turn up onto the field, and we're gonna do the rest of the digging up along the field instead of following the road. Rolled out all the hose we were gonna need of this kind, and then it was we had been digging for quite a long section, so it was a lot of work filling in everything. And also here, as I mentioned, we were narrowing the road a little and pulling up some material, and so it's the road gets a little higher and a little easier to maintain, and possible to have a blade and smooth out in the future. And then since it was so shallow, the hose, but here it's material filled over it. What felt like decent material was put up on the road, and then the rest was filled onto the hose, so it's nice and deep enough. It should be done the same to the other side of the road at some point, but I think it stole roughly 2 days. Well, it was a little quicker to dig this shallow one, so maybe just 1 day was lost because of road maintenance during this. Was able to source a couple of pipes, heavy duty metal pipes. They are really good for a temporary drainage pipe. If you wanna cross a ditch, you put one of those at the bottom and then some scrap pulp wood or something, and you can cross it with for the forest machine without doing any damage to the ditch itself. We'll see. I hope this will look a little better than looking at the speeded up footage in the video editor, because it looks really bad here. Hopefully it will look a little better when it's rendered and uploaded. Here I had a stressed hunter coming by. He was close to getting stuck, but four-wheel drive is nice. I had started rolling back and was gonna remove that little pile that was up on the road, but he was in too much of a hurry to wait for that. Yeah, I tried doing something where I take a still picture every now and then and include. Here we are near where that dry ditch was at, so that needed to be filled in, and there I left a section of the road a little wider so it's easier to meet if two cars come. And more refilling, more fuel, a little grease. And here we're back up to continue. Here we've actually had a break from the digging for a couple of days. Here I'm going a bit deeper again, because if it ever gets plowed, this section here is not really in use anymore, but it's still kept open for now. So putting the grass part at it on one side and then the actual material on the other, and my dad rolls down the grass part to lay on the hose, and found an old hydraulic hose there in the middle of the field for some reason. Found a few places where there were a few rocks and kind of it had been raining the days before this, and it was kind of a collected puddle of water down there that started seeping out and making things a little wet there. And here we have the last ditch that we have to cross, and here I know in the near future this will be cleaned and some material removed, so I want to go a little bit extra deep crossing this one, so took the wider bucket to be able to make a little wider trench when going quite deep with the digging. And same as the others, as soon as we were across we brought out the hose. Here it was wider, so not as likely to cave in or make any issues, but it's still nice to get it in place as soon as possible. Just a little more digging and we made room for that second junction box. And a little grease, some sand around the box, making sure that the signal cable is accessible. We also put down a kind of a pole next to it. I'm not sure if they will do set any markers on it, but and since we have uncovered some stones from that field, we tried to take them away. My dad had pushed down the material back into the trench with the tractor already, so I'm just following it with the track and kind of compacting it. And did a test with now that the entire length of the hose is in the ground, and seems to be possible to blow air all the way through it. Digging the last section. Here we had the order to use a slightly thinner hose, and we put down one extra a little bit up there in case anyone in the future wants to connect. It's a little less digging that day. We had to cross the road here. We put down a little extra of that a second layer of that signal cable a little higher up than the first one that's actually working, just because if there is some road maintenance, that one will come up before the actual one and far before the hose. Then started from the house and just connected the last little bit, filled up. We filled up the road to open that up directly. and then it was just refilling the last part. Here my dad is pushing in the material with the tractor, and then filled up the last little bits, and it was all done for now. Now we just have to wait and see for how long it will take before they come and give us the actual fiber connection.